"90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they work so hard to establish. Today, our insurance agents work to protect all Virginians, not just farmers. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. More information is at farmbureauadvantage.com.
Would you like to put your business in front of rural America and the ag community every week? We have sponsorship opportunities available that will do just that. Contact us to find out how you can milk it for all it's worth.
Hi everybody, welcome to Virginia Farming. I'm Amy Rocher. On today's show, we're taking a look at the use of solar power. We're visiting two farms in Rockingham County, a dairy farm and a poultry farm, to see how they're harnessing the power of solar. All on this edition of Virginia Farming. On our first step of our solar tour, we are at Windcrest Farm in Timberville, Virginia, and I'm joined by farm owner Dave Utze. Dave, thank you so much for having us out today.
It's a beautiful day.
You have a gorgeous farm here.
Well, thank you very much.
And your operation is 100% dairy.
That's pretty much correct.
Okay.
We grow the crops for the cows, but the dairy product is all we really sell.
All right. So how many head do you milk?
We're milking about 850 with a few dry cows and a lot of heifers besides.
So you must milk around the clock with that number.
We do. We have 3 shifts, and each shift takes about 7 hours, and then we have some wash-up time. We make a tanker load of milk, which is about 6,000 gallons every 17 hours.
Wow. That's a lot of milk. That's a lot of cows, and that's a lot of milk.
It is a lot of milk.
So let's talk about the solar power. First of all, what made you get interested in trying to harness solar power for your farm?
I must say I've had a little interest in it and wasn't sure that it would work economically for us for a number of years. But I had someone show up last summer, it's just sort of a cold call on the farm, and my first response was, yeah, I'm interested, but no, I don't think it'll work.
Yeah, right.
And so they asked if I would let them run some numbers, and I said, sure, go ahead and run numbers. I'll be glad to look at your information. And I've supplied them with some electric bills so they could see what my electric costs and uses were.
So after that, walk us through what happened.
Well,
you must have liked what you saw on the paper, right?
Yeah. It takes a lot of incentives, but it looked like it would cash flow, or not only cash flow, but looked like it would pay itself back in about 4.5 years.
Okay.
And so some of the incentives that are involved with it is a 30% tax credit, which is available to everyone. And for businesses, we can depreciate or write off the expense of the system, and that has value to us. And the third aspect was a USDA REAP grant, which we applied for. We're not assured of getting, but we did get it. And that that covers 25% of the project.
Speaking at a solar conference, the USDA's Kent Ware talked about the REAP program.
Well, with the REAP program, which is the Rural Energy for America program, we have both grants and guaranteed loans available for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. Now, these grants are limited to 25% of your project cost, and whether they be energy efficiency or renewable energy projects. It is to help the small farmer save in energy cost and keep the small farmer on the farm.
So how many months have you had your solar power?
Well, because of our tax circumstances, we decided to push it through in 2015 and get it completed. So I think they started in the beginning of August and were completed by late October.
Okay.
On the project. Right. We actually started producing electricity in the first couple of days of November.
All right. Now, the panels are actually in front of us on top of your loafing shed.
Mm-hmm.
How many panels are there, and what kind of solar power are you harnessing from those?
I think there's about 2,000 panels, and it's enough, it harnesses enough electricity that it will provide us with about 112% of our current use. We are in the process of growing a little bit more, so we thought we would put something in that was a little bit larger. And then
Okay.
immediately behind us, which people can see, are the inverters, which take the DC power, which is what the solar panels make, and convert it into AC, which is what we have on our electric grid.
Okay. So you said 112%. So you're making more energy than you actually need on the farm right now.
That's correct.
What do you do with the overage?
Well, each day when the sun shines, we're producing power that we are using. And it goes over here and goes through a transformer and then goes right into our barn. And any excess goes through a meter, which calculates both directions. In other words, when we're sending power out, it calculates how much we're sending out. And then at nighttime, or maybe on a really rainy day, it would determine how much is coming back in. And so at the end of the month, we'll really see the net of that. In the first month, we produced 11,000 kilowatts more than we used. So we had quite a surplus. In the second month, it was only about 1,000 kilowatts because probably less sunny days.
Right, right. Now, what do you do with the surplus? Is there any way to, do you sell it? Do you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The answer is, and I'm not absolutely certain about this, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer, is that we're rolling it over.
Okay.
And we will roll it over for up to 12 months. And
Okay.
at that point, what I'm uncertain about is whether we will have to sell it or whether the power company will let us roll it over some more. If we do sell it, we'll get, I believe, about 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay, so you are working with your local power company. This
Yes.
isn't just we're putting it on our barn and now everything on the farm is powered by the
Yes,
sun.
that's correct.
So how does that work? Did you have to sit down with them and work out an agreement?
Well, Paradise Energy Solutions that did my system did all of that for me. Dominion was very easy to work with. They're my power company. I appreciate them very much because things wouldn't work without electricity. But they were easy to work with. We upgraded our service size because literally when the system is producing, like today on this sunny day, it's producing about twice as much electricity as we would have expected to use. So we had to double my my entrance size and my transformer size.
Okay. So when it rolls over then, does Dominion kind of put that in a bank for you to
Yes.
use, like on those cloudy days and
Yes.
days where you may not have as much power being generated?
If we would have a month where it would really not be sunny, we would have a bank there in essence to use. And honestly, if Dominion would allow me to roll it over even for years, I probably would prefer to do that, assuming we are growing, instead of getting only a cent and a half back per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
When we started, before we had the solar system, we were paying about 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a very good rate. And we were using, I think, as much as 70,000 kilowatts per month in the summertime when we're running our fans.
Right.
The system is supposed to make 700,000 a year approximately, which and on other months we wouldn't use so much. Yeah.
Okay. So do you feel like you're already getting some monetary value back from the system?
Absolutely.
Would-
The month of October before we installed the system, our bill was about $3,600, and the month and when we paid our bill in November, it was about $300. Now there was still there's still some billing charges, and there's
Right.
a little bit of a demand charge on there too.
Okay.
But we had a significant drop in our costs.
I'd say that's very significant.
It is.
$3,000 about.
And when we get into summer, I'm sure we're going to see even more benefit
Right.
from it.
Right. Now, your operation is all dairy. Give me an idea of what types of things the solar power runs. I guess anything that electricity would normally
Yeah.
run, like what?
Well, you can tell that we're a big user from talking about our electric bills. Behind us, you hear a little bit of the whine of the vacuum pump. That's what we use to milk the cows, vacuum. We have lights, of course, in the barns, and especially in the summertime, we have fans running to cool the cows, and you can see them out in the barns there. They're off now, and it's a gorgeous day.
Right, right.
And then the other thing that's very important to us is that we cool our milk. So the milk after, comes out of the cow about 100 degrees, and before it goes on the truck, it's chilled down to about 35 degrees.
And that's when it tastes the best.
It tastes, when it's coldest milk is always best.
It's always awesome, isn't it? So what would you say to any farmer who might be interested in looking at a solar system for their farm?
Yeah. It's worth looking at. Whether it works or not might depend on the goals of an individual. The incentives are out there to do the systems. And I think for dairy producers and poultry producers in particular, who are larger users, I think it would make sense for people to look into it.
Greg Yost with Integrated Power Sources says in most cases, solar energy is showing a good return on investment.
I was fortunate previously last year to work with Windcrest Holsteins in terms of, at the time, installing the largest solar production facility of its type. And the numbers, the success story that farm has received in terms of reduction in unnecessary electric costs just over the past 7 or 8 months is amazing. And Mr. Yutzi shared with us recently his success and how his electric bill is now almost 1/8 of what it was before solar was installed. And we want people to continue to work with their bankers and their accountants to determine next time they're looking at their finances if there's the ability to invest in solar, because with the returns now, that can be paybacks as little as 5 years, in some cases maybe as much as 12 or so, and return on investments that are sometimes between 12 to 15%.
I think there are a number of companies out there that are reputable. Because of the incentives that are there, most of the companies are offering long-term contracts along with the solar panels. In other words, they'll service them, they'll guarantee them. Some of them will even guarantee the output of the system. And again, because of the incentives, because you're getting 30% of the total, that's a good thing to look for, is to have the additional assurances within what you're getting.
Okay.
You wouldn't look for the least cost supplier, let's put it that way.
Right. You need to find one who's going to match your individual needs. And like every farm across Virginia, across the country, every farm is different. They're all run differently.
That's correct.
So everybody's going to have a different need.
But what I'm stressing is that it's important to find a company that's reputable and that will stand behind it and that will give you the most long-term value for your dollar.
Okay. Well, Dave, thank you so much for having us out today. It's been a pleasure. Your operation here is absolutely gorgeous. You got some very happy cows over there.
We think they really enjoy it in there.
They're beautiful ladies and they're very happy.
They are what we slave for.
Well, the sun's shining bright on you and your facility here, and we certainly appreciate you sharing it with us.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate it.
Well, you mentioned poultry a little earlier. We're going to move, our next stop is going to be in Dayton, Virginia, but we're going to visit Orrin Heatwell at his poultry facility. So we're at our second stop on our solar tour. We are at Riverbank Farm, and I'm joined by Orrin Heatwell, the owner and proprietor of Riverbank Farm. Orrin, thank you for having us out today.
Sure, glad to have you.
Now, this show is centered all around harnessing the power of solar, and you do it on your poultry farm.
That is correct.
First of all, tell us, how big of a poultry operation do you have?
We have three 63 by 504 George's broiler houses. Have roughly 120,000 broilers at one time on the farm.
Wow. Okay. So what made you think that we need to try the solar thing? We need to try solar power and see how it works.
Well, the sun is always with us. You know, we have sun, there's cloudy days, but it's free energy. And I looked at it and said, you know, it appeared not to be cost effective, but it was getting very cost effective, and it was always a return. You know, if I put it in today, 25 years from now, I'm still getting a return on that investment.
Well, you said 25 years from now, but how long have you been operating solar-powered poultry houses?
We put this system on, I believe it was '07, so we're 9 years, 8-9 years into it.
Okay. And what's your feedback so far? What's your thoughts on your savings? How do you like it?
Well, when we first put it on, we had 2 houses, and we put it on so we could do about 50% of our electricity. It is actually overproduced from what we put it on for, and about 50 to 75% of our electric has been furnished on them 2 houses with solar. So we were very pleased.
Wow.
Yost says Heatwell's experience speaks well for other farmers.
We began work with Orrin Heatwell on his farm several years ago, and being able to partner with him was significant for us, because for him, Orrin being so well known in the poultry industry and his company, Poultry Specialties being so well known, for him to be able to partner with us is really an honor. Being able to kind of use his facility as a prototype allowed us to gain a lot of momentum in this area. He's well known in the industry, and I think that just the level of trust that he put in us was big.
Now, all of your poultry operation is powered through the solar.
That's correct. It's hooked
Okay.
to the grid, and so the meter just goes forward or backwards. There's been months when we've had no electric bill, and then there's been months where we use a lot of electricity that we'll pay in, but
Okay.
it's been very, very good.
Now, if another poultry farmer is interested in learning a little bit more about solar power, is it necessary for them to build a house with solar power in mind, or is it easy to fit an existing poultry house with solar power?
You can do it either way. You really do not need the building to put the solar onto. You can do a ground mount system or put it on the roof. There's not a lot of difference between the cost, and so it comes to basically preference.
Okay. And you put yours on the roof, and tell us why.
Well, the one reason is that the roof was already there, and so I didn't have to use acreage. You know, acreage cost a lot of money, so it was able to utilize my roof for that space.
And do you know about how many panels you have that power all your
I
houses?
believe I've got 98.
Okay. Is that just on the houses alone, or does that include your shed?
No, that's just on my houses. I got another 45, I believe, on my shop.
Okay. Now, when you started this back in '07, were you the first?
As far as I know, I was. I don't know of any other poultry farmer that has it
Okay.
in the valley.
And
I
at
mean,
that
they have
time,
it since then, but not then.
right. At that time, were there grants available? Because the clean energy seems to have picked up more recently in the last few years as opposed to back that far. Were you able to find any help to
Yes.
offset the cost?
Yes, there was offset costs. There was a grant, and there was also your tax credit that you still get today.
Okay.
And you know, between the two, and at the time there was also carbon credits. Carbon credits have proven not to be very good, but
Right.
it panned out to be probably a 5 to 7 year payback,
Okay.
which was to me a very good investment.
So you're already reaping the
That's
benefits
correct.
from that.
That is correct.
And are you happy with it? Was it something you would do again?
Yes, absolutely. I'd consider doubling the system and
Really?
making it where it would cover basically 100% of my electric.
Have you ever thought about doing it here at your house?
Well, my shop is actually tied to the house, so yes,
Oh, okay.
it is on it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
So just about everything that you run here on your farm is powered through solar?
That is correct. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Everything is. Yes.
Wow. Do you have an electric bill at all?
Oh, yes, yes. Because we intentionally undersized the systems because if you overproduce, you don't get a return. The wholesale of electricity does not pay for it. So you intentionally you want to keep under. And as our efficiencies get up, like we have more efficient fans in the poultry houses, more efficient lighting, there might be come a time when we don't even need what we put on there. So it was an intentional purpose to keep it at 50 to 75% of our use.
Okay. Now, what about in wintertime? I always think about the poultry houses have to be kept so warm for these baby chicks that are coming in. And in the wintertime, we don't have the bright sun like we see outside today. How does that work in the whole game?
Your sun is more direct in the winter. It's more of a direct in line because it's coming from the south. Mm-hmm. In the summer, it goes more across the straight across. So you end up getting, we still get a fair amount of electricity from the sun in the winter. In fact, the winter time is when we use less electricity on the poultry farms, and that's when I will have 0 electric bills.
Wow.
In the winter time.
Because the panels are still generating power even when it's cloudy. A little bit of sun still generates power, correct?
That is correct, yes. Okay. Yeah, it can be a cloudy day and you'll still be producing electricity.
Wow, mm-hmm. That's amazing. Now, do you have any advice for any farmers, whether it's poultry or any other farmers who might be interested in turning towards solar power?
Yes, I would look at it, look at the cost effectiveness of it. Most investments, the way I look at it, if it's under a 10-year payback, it's a good investment. And if solar will do it in less than 10 years, go for it. You
right.
Can't lose. After the 10 years, it's money in your pocket.
Right, because the sun's still going to be here.
That's right.
So do you have a backup generator or anything for your poultry houses? I know so many of today's modern poultry houses have computers that run and set off alarms if a temperature falls or if there's something wrong. Do you have backup for your solar power?
Yes, and it's not, the backup is not for the solar. The backup is for the grid.
For the grid.
Because if the power company, a power line goes down, the generator will kick in. The solar will never run everything.
Right.
It's using the grid as a battery storage basically for us, without a battery storage.
Okay, so that's basically how the whole solar power works. It's collected from the panels and stored basically like a battery.
That is correct.
Okay.
Without the expense of the battery.
Right. And then how is it distributed after that?
Well, it basically, the inverters convert it to your 110, 220 volt system. So it's basically just tied to the grid, and there's nothing really that gets done beyond that.
Okay.
It goes through your meter. The meter will go one way if you're using it. It'll go the other way if you're overproducing.
Okay. All right. So you're able to bank a little bit of
yes.
Of the power that you're not using, and you use it on days when you're getting less.
That's correct. Yeah, and there's if I was way overproducing, my meter would continually go backwards, and then it would go to the wholesale part of it, which is not profitable.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, Orrin, thank you so much for having us out today. You have a beautiful home, beautiful farm, and we really enjoy being here.
Sure, glad to help you out.
That wraps up our show on solar power. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they work so hard to establish. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. Anyone can be a Farm Bureau member, and there's a local Farm Bureau in every county. More information is at vafarmbureau.org.
Would you like to put your business in front of rural America and the ag community every week? We have sponsorship opportunities available that will do just that. Get in touch with us to hatch a new plan.
There are 30,000 roadway accidents each year involving cars and farm machinery. Farmers will be moving equipment for planting and harvest season. The slow-moving vehicle triangle in red and fluorescent orange colors and flashing lights allow for quick identification. When you see an SMV sign on farm equipment, slow down, prepare for sudden stops and slow turns.
Patience will save lives. Just remember, we all need to share the road, we all need to be responsible, and we need to be guided by the law.
Motor vehicle safety starts with you.
Check out Virginia Farming on Facebook.
Virginia Farming's Facebook page is a great way to stay connected with Virginia agriculture. You might even find some humor there too. You'll find links to events and happenings all over the Commonwealth that are of interest to farmers and consumers alike. So connect with us and share your stories and photos with the Virginia farming community and keep up to date on all things agriculture. Virginia Farming on Facebook.